Yeah, 66% are great. But this is 2 of the flower. So it doesn't look like any more. You could have any more. Oh, yeah. And these guys. Yes. Sure. And these guys, well, any one of those, whatever you guys. Yeah. Sounds good. Good work to you too. Yeah, if there's.
Good evening and welcome to the City Council meeting for Monday, June 16, 2025. We will begin with a roll call and determination of quorum.
Lehman, Maher, Roberts, Stroman, Pettigrew, Seacrest, Bieberdorf, Ham, Evans, Roseland. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Next, we'll have an invocation by Seth Caldwell, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. If you're able and willing, would you please rise? Seth, we'll go right over here at that podium.
Heavenly Father, thanks for this day. God, thank you for the opportunity we have to be here together. Thank you for our country, for our state, for our city. God, for this opportunity we have to make positive changes in our community. God, thank you for the leaders that are gathered here, for the time and effort they put forth for the betterment of all of us. I pray you'd bless tonight's proceedings. May your truth reign here. May your will be done. In Jesus' name, amen.
Okay. Next, I'll entertain a motion to adopt the agenda. Motion by Roseland, second by, is that Evans or Bieberdorf? All in favor? Any opposed? The agenda is adopted. Next, we're going to have a proclamation for Eddie Martinez Day. So if you're here for that, would you come on up and join me in the bullpen area, please? So a while ago, I met with Eric Bringswhite, and we had a great visit. And one of the things he was telling me about was the impact of Eddie Martinez. And he was like, hey, do you think we could proclaim an Eddie Martinez Day? I said, sure. It's taken a while, but here we are. And Mr. Martinez, it is our honor to honor you today for all the work that you've done. We've been provided some information about you that's going to be read into a proclamation as we make this your special day. So I'm going to go ahead and read this. Whereas in 1977, Eddie Martinez founded the Rapid City Youth Boxing Inc., also known as Martinez Boxing Club, with the vision of providing a positive outlet for young individuals who might otherwise lack access to structured activities. And whereas for 2 decades, the club operated in various locations, including local schools and the Civic Center, until securing a permanent home with the assistance of the City of Rapid City. And whereas under Eddie's leadership, the club has become a cornerstone for youth development, emphasizing discipline, responsibility, and self-reliance. And whereas Eddie's approach has transformed and impacted the lives of many young men and women, steering them away from the negative influences and guiding them toward personal growth and achievement. Notably, the club has produced athletes that have competed at national levels, reflecting the high standards and dedication and commitment Eddie has instilled in his pupils. And whereas beyond athletic training, Eddie has been a mentor and role model, teaching life skills that extend well beyond the boxing ring. His unwavering dedication over the years has left an indelible mark on the Rapid City community, fostering a legacy of resilience and excellence. Now, therefore, I, Jason Solomon, Mayor of Rapid City, South Dakota, do hereby proclaim today as Eddie Martinez Day in Rapid City. And we recognize Eddie's decades of service and inspiring future generations to contribute positively to our community. So, Mr. Martinez, it is officially your day, sir. Congratulations. We'd like to, and I'll give you an opportunity to share a few words, but I'd like to give Mr. Bringswhite an opportunity to share about you as well. Eric?
Hello. Whatever I say, it can't do justice to Eddie and the work that he's done on the north side. He's a good relative. He's somebody to lean on in troubled times. He touched so many lives, you know, and we thought it was appropriate that we lift him up, and some of the things that's being positively done on the north side for our youth. So he's a staple of the north side, Eddie. Everybody know Eddie. And so this is quite the honor. It's a privilege to have Eddie on board with Legacy and all the experience he brings, the love, everything, the understanding, the compassion. This is Eddie Martinez. Thank you.
Do you want to say a few words?
Thank you.
That's a few words. Can we get a picture with with this? And Eric, do you want to join us as well? Hey, that's, would you put?
There you go. Thank you very much.
All right, everyone. Next, we will have a special presentation from Elevate Rapid City. I think looks like we have Garth Wadsworth here with us tonight. Talk about the Innovation District.
All right, good evening, Council. Is this on? Can you
It's
hear me?
on.
All right, perfect. Hey, Garth Wadsworth. I am the Public Policy Director for Elevate Rapid City. I should start off by thanking the city for their involvement in this program. It's coming up on 18 months now that we've been working on this. So the Innovation District Plan is funded as part of the Tech Hubs program. This was a new initiative from the Economic Development Administration, originally funded through the CHIPS and Science Act in response to the semiconductor shortage during the COVID era, but has since been reauthorized through the National Defense Authorization Act. And so funding for this program is going to continue, just coming out of a slightly different source from the feds. So awardees were broken out into 3 buckets. We had the Strategy Development Grantees, which is us, that's Rapid City. We had Tech Hub designees, and then following the designees, we had a group that received implementation funding. So not all designees received implementation funding, but that implementation funding is the long-term goal. So the next step for us is to apply to become a designee, and then we will be eligible to apply for $40 to $50 million to assist with some of the projects that we have identified thus far. So part of the program was to develop a consortium. We realized that these are big projects, we cannot do this alone, and so we were required to have a minimum of 5 different kinds of organizations. We had to have an economic development organization, hey, that's us. We had to have a body of local government, that's you, thanks again for being involved. You had to have a research institution. We were lucky, we got the School of Mines and Western Dakota Tech to participate, and they both had different assets to bring to the table. We had to have some private sector partners involved. And so we were able to get Caterpillar and Respec as industry partners involved in the program. And then you had to have some kind of a labor organization represented. And the only option for us was the South Dakota Workforce Board, or Workforce Development Board, headquartered out of Pierre. And so they agreed to participate. And then we were fortunate to have SURF as an add-on, not required, but obviously they are special. It's an asset that the region has that most other communities do not have, and we were able to get that to fit within the project scope. So the project was then broken out into 2 main components. If you would like to talk to me about the workforce and market analysis, I'm happy to do so, but we're going to spend most of the time on the Innovation District today. But so very quickly, we were required to pick a key technology focus area, a KTFA, with the idea being, do you have existing research capacity? Do you have private sector capital to support the commercialization of that research capacity? Do you have available workforce to fill the jobs that that commercialization then creates? And long-term training and talent pipelines to support industry competitiveness. And so given our private industry partners and the assets that we have in the research going on at School of Mines, we identified underground sciences and autonomous technologies as our niche. Caterpillar is doing some really neat things up at SURF for autonomous underground mining equipment. And then looking at some of the research that the university and other firms have done to improve the safety and reduce the impact of mining operations. And so that was our technology niche. We have to keep the project within the confines of that scope. But separate from the technology focus is the Innovation District, and this was designed to be able to stand independently from the KTFA, but you cannot have an Innovation District without innovation. And so the Innovation District is really just a place-based strategy. How do we, 1, retain the graduates that we have coming out of School of Mines? The Board of Regents did a study, I think 2 or 3 years ago. They said we are producing, as a state, we are producing too many nurses and too many engineers. If you ask around, right, most businesses will say, we rarely need to be able to hire nurses and engineers. And so we recognize the ability to retain that workforce as being crucial to the community and the success of the Innovation District. And then also, the ability to attract some of these folks, this talent from outside the region here to Rapid City to fill some of those super niche, high-level research positions. And so we need to create a district that is vibrant and is attractive to highly educated people. And then creating a proximity to innovative relationships. This is just a fancy way of saying a concentration of people who are highly educated working on very similar projects. Right? And we want to put them in a small space so that they have creative collisions, that they're interacting with each other, they know how to ask each other for whatever it may be, access to shared resources, facilities, equipment, or capital. And then looking for shared facilities. So what can we as a community in partnership with everyone involved rally around, build to support as a physical facility the key technology focus area that we've identified on the other side. So we're going to get stuck into the district plan, but I will say we will have far more detail in the next month. So come the end of July, we will have specifics for what each of these sub-plans is going to look like. So we started jumping through the hoops with the Economic Development Administration about 18 months ago. It took us a while to get things squared away. We then had to put that project out for RFP, and we solicited the 2 projects on the left. We completed the industry and workforce analysis first, with the thinking that we would then use that as the foundation for understanding how many people, how many jobs, how much money we're going to have that we can rely on as an investment for the district. And the district is broken out into 3 main spaces. So our innovative spaces and attractive places, what makes it cool, what makes it vibrant, why do people want to live here? Housing, services, and retail, the logistics of how they live there, right? Where do they live? Where do they shop? Where do they spend their money? How do they get around? And then multimodal transportation. So we understand that if we have an increased density downtown, we have an increased intensity of use, we're going to need to repurpose some of the land we have, and we're going to need to change the way that folks get around the district. So we're towards the end of the development framework, as we'd call it. We do not have specifics yet on the actual plan, but we will within the next month, and so we're excited to share that with you moving forward. So this is the development framework that we have put together so far. So the red area, the gateway, that's going to be your transition zone. If you think of all the things that East of 5th was trying to achieve, it's going to be mostly accommodated within this red area. The yellow area to the south, that's going to be your missing middle. This is where we're going to accommodate most of the housing. The pink area to the north, that's your highway safety zone. It's basically the land abutting Omaha, trying to provide a buffer to a high volume corridor. Maple is going to be the transition into university spaces, really student oriented. The darker blue labeled research, that's going to be your really university facilities. And then the light blue labeled sandbox is going to be areas identified for partnerships between School of Mines and Western Dakota Tech. Obviously, we need to be able to accommodate folks. If we continue to do so with our current parking requirements and vehicle-oriented transportation, we're not going to have the space, and so we need to invest in alternative modes of transportation, walkability, bikeability, all those things to accommodate that increased intensity of use. We recognize that we need to have third places, parks, green space, open space to make sure these people have adequate quality of life. So we have started to put together the foundation for what these green spaces will start to look like. None of these are finalized. We still have time to revise, but how do we start to put together public spaces so we can have increased residential density downtown? You know, we need a dog park. We understand that. Right? If people are going to live downtown, they need to have a place to walk their dogs, to let them run. And so looking for specific site recommendations for how we start to do that. We've identified access to the bike path and access to the greenway as a priority for the district. And so we understand that there's limited use, limited potential for redevelopment along Omaha because values are relatively high, but making sure we have safe pedestrian access and bike access across Omaha to access the existing greenway as an asset the community already has. We will have proposed cross sections for street redesign. So we have very wide right-of-ways. A lot of that is eaten up with on-street parking. How can we start to redesign streets to calm traffic, accommodate additional uses, free up some real estate, some physical space for alternative uses, and just overall improve the safety of the corridor? And so we've got a number of proposals that we're working through. The consulting team that is working on this is not as familiar with all the background and proposals that the city has already seen, and so we're making sure we don't revisit anything that's already been pitched to the council or the planning staff. Okay, So, a few specifics, but the Maple area is going to be your student-dominated area. Having been on campus recently, I think we had an idea of just how far or how big the perceived gap was between campus and downtown. I can tell you it is far bigger than you would ever imagine. Downtown Rapid City might as well be in a different state for these students. And so making small changes within that 3-block radius in this Maple zone is going to go a long way in bridging that gap, making sure they feel like they're part of the community. And so we want to see increased access to housing that is affordable to students, as well as third spaces, be it pizzerias or brew pubs, coffee shops, where folks can frequent and get them out off campus and into the community. Again, we recognize that there's limited opportunities for redevelopment along the Omaha corridor just because it has been such a focus and it has such great visibility. And so the priority here is improving pedestrian safety, bike safety, and really investing in that access to the greenway to help connect the district to the community's asset. This is going to come mostly through traffic calming. So how do we slow speeds down at intersections? How do we improve the streetscape? How do we provide some shade to make sure that this is not only a hospitable and safe place, but a place people want to walk, a place people want to be outside, rather than a place people feel they need to cross or get through in order to access the greenway. Oh, I should say, apologies. Bottom right corner, we will have specific design recommendations for buildings and facilities for each of these framework areas. So we don't have them yet, but we will have 3 or 4 options for what facilities, buildings will actually look like, facades, elevations, to make sure that they're consistent with the existing neighborhood, allowing for increased intensity of use, but not disrupting the neighborhood in a way that is out of touch with what we see on the ground already. Okay, so the Research Nexus is crucial. You cannot have an innovation district without innovation. And so this is going to be your university facilities. How do we start to take research that we already know is happening on campus and start to create commercial value, right? Jobs, wages for the people who live here. And so looking for those shared facilities, shared pieces of equipment, but also existing university needs. What do they need for lab space? And then private industry space, and how do we make sure that the city is ready to accommodate all of those? The Gateway area, this is going to be your largest transition zone. Again, it's going to accommodate housing. It's going to be the place where people who want to experience that vibrancy but are maybe not students or do not have a tie to the university still frequent. Think of this as an extension of downtown towards campus. I don't know what brings you downtown, bars, beer, pizza, donuts, whatever it is. We hope to have all of it down there. So the Sandbox Lab is a tricky one. This is predominantly owned by the city at this time. We've had some preliminary conversations about whether or not we could think about repurposing some of that space, but this has been identified as an opportunity for collaboration between School of Mines and Western Dakota Tech. So think about accommodating slightly heavier uses, slightly larger facilities. It is to the north of the railroad tracks. So if we need to have a fabrication shop or a space for welding, whatever it may be, this is an opportunity to accommodate some of those larger buildings and some of those more industrial uses that wouldn't be otherwise compatible with an urban living district just to the southwest. Again, this area should be, or should prioritize access to the greenway, should prioritize access to the bike path, so that it's not just a place people feel like they need to transition through, but can provide value and make it hospitable to folks who want to be there and want to work in the district. Okay, missing middle, we recognize that housing is still not affordable to most of our residents. We need to have mix of housing options. And so there are still some single-family units within this district. There are a few multifamily units, some smaller, some larger. So this has proven that we can integrate a variety of housing into a relatively small area, but we'd like to see an increase in density so that we can provide additional affordability. We will have some design recommendations. What kinds of housing do the neighbors feel comfortable with? What fits with the scale of the existing neighborhood? But how do we still provide opportunities for affordable housing for predominantly students, but also folks living and working within the district? So one of the things we've realized through this is that the current prescriptions and ratios of housing to commercial space tend to be a bit high. So we tend to underestimate how much housing we need, and we tend to overestimate how much commercial real estate or space we need. And so the traditional model of the 3/1 that we've seen pushed in other cities has resulted in an oversupply of retail space. And so rather than a 3-to-1 ratio, we've seen a shift towards really more of a 1,000 units per block of commercial real estate, which creates roughly the necessary residential density within 1/4 mile to support those local neighborhood retail uses. So you can achieve that through, building taller, which I don't think is realistic given the current market, or by reducing the amount of commercial real estate necessary, and really concentrating that on corners and freeing up some of the ground floor uses for more residential uses. So, simply put, right, retail follows rooftops, always has. We have a whole long list of research that we'd be happy to provide you that really outlines this number for 1,000 residential units within 1/4 mile to support that block of commercial. Should stress that it's 1,000 units, not 1,000 people. So roughly 2,200 people depending on your average household size. So I apologize. I wish I had more specifics, but come July, we will have some more pretty pictures for you to look at. And we will say that one of the keystone pieces that we have been missing is the shared facilities and resources to connect the key technology focus area to the district. And we're currently working on that. And so again, towards the end of July, we will have more for you to see. Any questions?
Thank you, Garth. I'm not seeing any questions. Appreciate you giving an overview of the Innovation District. A lot of discussion on what that is. So hopefully that helps answer any questions. Thank you. Next, we'll move on to general public comment, a time for members of the public to discuss or express concerns to the council on any issue not on the agenda. Action will not be taken at the meeting on any issue not on the agenda except by placement on the agenda by unanimous vote of the council members present. I do not have any general public comment forms. I have some for specific items later on in the meeting. So we will close public comment and move on to non-public hearing items 3 through 29 and open public comment for items 3 through 20. I have no speaker request forms for 3 through 20, so I will close the public comment and move on to consent items 3 through 20. Would the council like to remove any item for separate consideration or vote on the remaining ballots? All right, we got a motion by Sechrist and a second by Ham to approve items 3 through 20. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. That takes us to the end of the consent items, and we will move on to non-consent items 21 through 29 and open public comment for items 21 through 29. And I do have a few speaker request forms. We will begin with Sean Wagner.
Good evening. How y'all doing? I'm here tonight because of the raise. I was here on 8/28 of 2022 with Mayor Allender about the raises. And I brought up South Dakota Constitution Article 12, subsection 3, expenditures and contracts, where an officer, a public employee, or contractor is in an active contract, they can't do a raise or take money from. If so, then it's self-dealing. And at that time, the contract's nulled and voided. It's written right in the Constitution. I'm here to talk to y'all about this, and maybe we could change the verbiage to, we could vote it in for the next mayor that gets voted in and the other aldermen. I don't know, but constitutional law, and y'all are our leaders, and we gotta lead by example, you know? And we're watching, we're paying attention, teaching ourselves. Thank you.
Next, Darren Ketchum.
Mr. Mayor, if I might do this a little bit out of order of what you might have in front of you. I should be on one of the speaker cards. This is Rich Williams from
Okay.
Gunderson Palmer Law Firm.
Yep, that's fine. It looks like I got 3 for the elements here. Rich, you'll get your 3 minutes, and then your other
Thank you,
folks
Mr.
will get 3 minutes after you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I'm here on behalf of Elements today. We're here on an appeal from Planning and Zoning. And I won't really get into too much of the details about what we talked about with Planning and Zoning. Originally, we sort of discussed whether or not this was a permitted use. They're basically seeking to have the Elements building that you see down on St. Joe. It's about halfway between Fifth Street and the School of Mines campus. And they are looking to convert their commercial space on the first floor to residential apartments. And it looks like there's gonna be about 17 apartments in there, all but 3 of them will be 2 bedrooms. And so when we're looking at this before with Planning and Zoning, there was some question of whether this was a permitted use or not a permitted use. But I think that we've all come to the agreement on this, that it is in fact a permitted use for residential first floor dwellings in this zoning district. So I think we're beyond that at this point. So what we're really looking at is allowing that change to say, what does Rapid City need and how is that going to be done? And Garth, I couldn't have said it better. Garth from Elevate just spoke to you about the Innovation District. It's right down in the middle of that. And so what is he talking about? He's talking about we need additional residential units, a lot more, based on what I just heard. 1,000 for a small block, 2,000 units for a vibrant area. So this would definitely help that out. We want to put that back in the community, get people downtown, get people at the commercial spaces. We've seen the exhibits that we have. There's a 17% vacancy rate in the heart of downtown Rapid City. And we're talking about an area, far, far east from there. It's quite a walk. I would invite you to go take that walk if you have the opportunity. But we think that that would add the additional housing to drive commercial business in downtown Rapid City. We see a lot of fluctuation here in Rapid City, a lot of it with tourist season. Well, I think what we need probably is those people here on a year-round basis. People shop and eat where they live. That's just the nature of how we are. And so we're asking for that change to have that to be first floor, all apartment buildings. And Vicki was nice enough to come up and talk to me earlier. There were some presentations that we put on our exhibits of renderings of how this would look. And I think Vicki had some preferences on what some of those might look like with the windows. I can tell you this, the Elements is willing to work with the city to present that however it may be, the types of windows, however that should look.
All right, Rich, your 3 minutes is up.
All right, I will leave it to the remaining speakers. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. What, Darren, you want to come
Yes,
up
sir.
next? All right.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, staff. I'm Darren Ketchum. I'm manager of the Elements. And just want to reiterate a couple of things that Rich said, where he ended up. Our willingness to work with the city staff to deliver something that we can all be proud of. We're very proud of this investment in Rapid City, and certainly going back to early 2020, had discussions with city staff, which I believe you have a copy of on your desk, about doing a 4-story apartment complex, which the city had told us that is a permitted use. And the only thing that we actually needed a conditional use permit for was the underground parking, which we sought out. Through this, requested change, we actually improved the parking in the area. We're able to park all of the tenants of the Elements in our surface lot and our underground parking, and no longer require the counting of the public streets to support our parking requirements at the property. Certainly, we wish this had gone a little different with the commercial use. Over the past 4 years, we've had some tenant activity, nothing that has materialized, and looking at the information that Elevate has presented and other research, we feel the time is now to make the conversion to the residential uses. So far, we've not heard any opposition from any of the neighboring businesses or property owners to what we're proposing. We think it actually complements their uses without creating unnecessary competition in the district. Again, we're confident that the residential is a better fit for it. There are constructability challenges. There are market conditions that are not supportive of the commercial space at this time, and we don't foresee that for several more years and feel the residential is a better complement. I would like to thank the city staff for their help on this. We do look forward to working with you to bring together a product that everybody believes in and will work for Rapid City. And we're certainly able to answer any questions should any arise as you discuss this. Thank you.
Thank you. Final speaker request form is from Norman Drake.
Good evening. Norman Drake, also a manager of the Elements. I can't do much more than just reiterate what Darren and Rich have said and Elevate have said. We've tried really hard for 4 years, and I think we started out this project understanding that we knew this might be a possibility, and so we sought guidance from city staff, and they provided us with an answer that you all see, and has designed the building in a fashion that would allow us to do either one. We're still proposing to maintain some commercial space on the end corner, hoping that possibly a coffee shop or some type of small retail business would occupy that space. But we are very anxious to move forward on this and to work with city staff and planning to create the right aesthetics on the exterior of the building. And we're here to make Rapid City grow. We want to see everybody in this community successful, especially the existing retailers and people that have put money into the shops. They need more people visiting their shops in October, November, December, January, February, and March. And these people, they live there. They will give you the biggest impact for the money spent. I just ask that you seriously would consider this and move this forward for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. That will conclude the public comment for items 21 through 29, and we will move on to item 21. First reading of ordinance number 6668, an ordinance amending section 17.06 of the Rapid City Municipal Code. A request by Advanced Design Engineering and Surveying, Inc. for 3133 Holdings LLC for a rezoning request from General Agricultural District to Low Density Residential District 1 for property generally described as being located at the intersection of Link Lane and Hideaway Lane. Second. All right, we got a motion by Lehman and a second by Maher. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 22, first reading of ordinance number 6669, an ordinance amending section 17.06 of the Rapid City Municipal Code. A request by Advanced Design Engineering and Surveying, Inc. for 3133 Holdings LLC for a rezoning request from General Agricultural District to Low Density Residential District 2 for property generally described as being located at West Ridge Road and Dunham Drive. Motion by Roberts, second by Maher. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 23, first reading of ordinance number 6673, an ordinance regarding supplemental appropriation 2 for 2025. Motion by Roberts, second by Sechrist. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 24, approve resolution number 2025-073, a resolution establishing wage rates for city alderpersons and mayors. And the recommendation was to approve with a start date of July 1st, 2025 instead of July 1st, 2026.
Second.
Got a motion by Ham, second by Stroman, and we'll go to Councilor Roberts.
Thank you very much. I'd like to make a substitute motion to move this to the last meeting in July, and if I can get a second. I'd like to hold the floor. I got a second. The reason I'd like to move this.
Second by Lehman, right?
Yes.
Okay.
The reason I'd like to move this is I think that the incoming new council should have the ability to vote on this, and not a few people that are outgoing that it really doesn't affect. So that's just my opinion. Thank you.
Okay. So the motion on the floor right now is to move it to the second city council meeting in July. And Councilor Evans, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you. It's been pointed out to me by some constituents that there are certain laws in effect that would say we're not allowed to change salaries of public employees in midstream. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know where they are and what they're doing, but it would seem to me now is the time to do it rather than when new people come in, because the optics are really bad for that. Changing their wages the minute they take office, I think that looks really bad. Now, I've always, all you guys know, I've been in opposition to increasing the council wages for the reason I think it sometimes attracts the wrong sort of people who don't go out and do anything else. But the reality is it's gotten to the point where you're spending 25 or 30 hours a week doing this stuff, and frankly, $7 or $6 an hour is not enough compensation, especially if you still have to work. So I'm going to change my opinion on this, and I am going to support an increase for the council simply because we have to get it out of the cellar if people are actually going to be able to take the time to do their job on this. So I just want to let you know I'm not going to vote to move this ahead. I'm going to vote to approve it today. Thank you.
Councilor Stroman.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to agree with Mr. Evans on this. And I think that the time is right to do it now before we start with a new council. And I would like to address one of the concerns raised by one of the constituents. And I've heard some other people talk about this, and they've talked about Article 12, Section 3 of the South Dakota Constitution, which does not apply to the city council. It specifically says the legislature shall never grant any extra compensation, et cetera. That specifically deals with the legislature. Nowhere in there is it talk about the city council. And so I think that is something that pertains only to the Constitution and, only to the legislature, and that is not a prohibition from an adjustment of the pay scale from, to take into account the consumer price index since 2011, almost 15 years. So I'll be voting to vote on this tonight rather than to put it off. I yield.
Councilor Ham.
This item's been something that's been in the works for about a year and a half, and I'll also be voting to vote on this evening as well. There's a number of things. Article 12, Section 3, if there's something in the Constitution that speaks to all elected officials, it says all elected officials, and that one does not. It speaks to the legislature alone, so I agree with Councilor Stroman on that. This is largely just so that we can increase the pool of people who can afford to take this job. If you have if you're a working stiff like myself and you take time out of your schedule like I do each week, most people that are working and have a $30,000 to $60,000 wage that they earn, they can't afford to do this job. And I'd like to expand that a little bit. Not that we have to have everybody in that wage scale that's able to do this job, but I think we'll increase the pool of people who are capable of taking the time to do the job. So that's at the heart of why this is being voted on this evening. So that's my take. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? Otherwise, let's go to a roll call vote. So the motion we're going to deal with first is the substitute motion by Roberts with a second by Lehman to continue this to the second city council meeting in July.
Lehman. Aye. Maher.
No.
Roberts. Aye. Stroman.
No.
Seacrest. No. Bieberdorf.
No.
Ham.
No.
Evans.
No.
Roseland.
Aye.
All right, the motion fails 7-3, and we will go to the original motion on the floor, which is to approve as stated. And we'll go back to the recording secretary for that.
Lehman. Maher. Roberts. Stroman. Seacrest. Beaverdorf. Ham. Evans. Roseland.
And that passes 7-2. The other one I incorrectly stated 7-3. It was 6-3. So the motion passes. So we will move on to item 25, a request by Advanced Design Engineering and Surveying, Inc. for Indian Holdings, LLC, for a preliminary subdivision plan for proposed lots 1 and 2 of Block 1 and Lot 1 of Block 2 of Waziata, hope I pronounced that correctly, subdivision, generally described as being located southeast of North Haynes Avenue and Country Road. The recommendations to approve with stipulations. All right, we got a motion by Roberts with a second by Lehman to approve with stipulations. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 26, a request by Renner Associates LLC for Stephen Hilton for a preliminary subdivision plan for proposed Tract A, Revised 2, and Tract B of Palmer Subdivision, generally described as being located at 22550 Potter Road. The recommendations to approve with stipulations.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion by Maher, second by Roberts. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 27, a request by TUI Design Group for Meadow Valley LLC for a preliminary subdivision plan for proposed lots 2 through 6 of Block 5, lots 1 through 5 of Block 6, lots 2 through 31 of Block 7, lots 1 through 5, and lots 31 through 35 of Block 8, and lots 2 through 16 of Block 10, and dedicated right-of-way of Apple Valley Subdivision, generally described as being located east of the intersection of Crispin Drive and Harrelson Lane. The recommendations to approve with stipulations. Motion by Roberts, second by Seacrest to approve with stipulations. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 28, a request by Long Branch Civil Engineering, Inc. for International Church of Foursquare for a preliminary subdivision plan for proposed lots 2A, 2B, 3A, 3B of Buckingham Addition, generally described as being located southeast of the intersection of North Cherry Avenue and East Philadelphia Street. The recommendations to approve with stipulations. Motion by Ham, second by Lehman to approve with stipulations. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 29 is an appeal of Planning Commission's decision on a request by Legacy Development and Consulting Company, LLC, for the Elements LLC for a major amendment to the plan development overlay to convert ground floor commercial suites to residential units for property generally described as being located at 100 St. Joseph Street. Appeal of Planning Commission's decision to approve in part and deny in part. And that was the staff recommendation. And Councilor Evans, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. This one has me a little bit bothered, and I'll tell you why. We approve these things, and we're looking forward to a complete paradigm shift for downtown. We're going to change this from a place with no residential and very little business in the area into one that's going to be an attractive place to live and to grow and all that other stuff. And I've seen it happen in other towns. I see what's happened in Fort Collins in many ways. I see what's happened even in Fargo, and in particular in Lincoln and Des Moines, where these kind of processes, they're followed through to completion and really create some fabulous neighborhoods. And so the original vision was really, really good for this entire innovation corridor and everything. However, in this particular case, I think we're thinking about changing this way, way too early. Now, I think the occupancy in the Legacy building right now is pretty high. Would one of you guys be willing to address that? What is your current occupancy level of these new apartments?
Elements, by the way. It is the Elements that has requested this
Okay,
change.
whatever. Yeah, and that's pretty good for being open for a few months. And it takes time to do things. And in this case, we may very well have to give them the break. But I don't think we've looked long enough. I know that those particular apartments, and I looked at them with some friends when they moved back into town. They're beautiful. They truly are. I think that the people rented that space thinking there was going to be some support on the first floor, and that support being this kind of commercial development we're talking about. And so I think it's a little bit just disingenuous all of a sudden, when it's easier to do that than to do this, to change orders in midstream. I know things are difficult and they take a long time, especially when there's a paradigm shift. I know. I came to town when there were 30 violin players in the public school string program. The superintendent told me this: you're never going to build a string program in this town. And I'm a 23-year-old optimist. I said, well, let me try. And my boss said, well, it's not going to happen. And when I left and retired 7 years ago, there were 1,500 kids in this town that played. 1 of every 10 kids in this city is a violin player. So I know it takes time to get things to shift. And so I hope that we hold your feet to the fire on this and try a little bit longer, because that's an ideal spot for a small mercantile, for something like a mini Target that I've, when I go to graduation at Duke, there's one right over there. When I go to Evanston, Northwestern, there's one right over there. I know what you want to do and what the vision is for this kind of planning, and maybe that's not a possibility here, but I think we haven't given it enough time to try, especially with that building being full. And somebody's got to be the first ones to take the steps. So I say we delay this a little longer. We may have to revisit in a few months. Doesn't work, but I think with some maybe help from our planning department and us, we can maybe get some tenants in there that are going to fulfill the original vision of what this whole thing is. Because you got to start someplace, and always giving in to the pressure. I'm disappointed in Elevate that they're supporting this, frankly, because we're supporting their plans so much, and we're trusting them to be on the long range on what they're doing. That's the reason we fund them so well. So maybe we need to think a little longer range on this. Thank you.
Councilor Stroman, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mayor. May I direct a question to Community Development Director Vicki Fisher?
Absolutely.
Ms. Fisher, as I understand the vote at the Planning and Zoning, it was kind of a compromise. It looked like the applicant wanted to have convert the entire first floor from residential to commercial, and what the Planning and Zoning came up with was they affirmed in part and denied in part. So they said ultimately you could convert the north elevation portion of the first floor to commercial, to residential, and leaving the south elevation to commercial. Is that accurate?
The floor is yours, ma'am.
Thank you. That is accurate.
Okay, and what is the community development's position on that?
Well, I wanted to clarify, Mayor, if I might, and I'll try to keep this quick.
Yep.
So this is in a plan development because when they originally came in with their project, they could not meet all of the design standards of the urban commercial district. They had to get exceptions to the setback and to some fourth-story graduated setback that they did not want to meet. And then the parking lot that was on the secondary street abutted the street farther than it was allowed, because these are supposed to be similar to the central business district. So because that's in a plan development, and it was approved by Planning Commission as a mixed-use building, when they wanted to come in and convert the first floor to all of residential, that required the major amendment. Planning Commission concurred with staff in that this is a pedestrian street between the School of Mines and our downtown core. And we've got a couple of them that are identified in the city's downtown master plan. We want to pull those students into our downtown core. To do that, we want activities that they can participate in. We do want to have design features so that, similar to when you're in the central business district, you peek in the window. I must say the applicants and their representative have been absolutely wonderful to work with. The urban commercial district does require that 45% of the front facade be of window. And then it's got many other things. In addition to all those things, you have to pick 2 more things that you have to align with. And one of them is you could, instead of putting in bike racks or flower boxes, you could go to a 66% where the front facade is window. We wrote it that way, and I've been here a while, but this is one of the few ordinances that I actually was on the committee that worked on. We wrote it that way so that we would have those commercial activities along the street, and they in turn would be of interest to those that are walking and strolling, and pull those folks from the school to the downtown core, and vice versa. And so that is the position that Planning Commission took, and they did align with staff on that recommendation.
Can I have a little bit more time?
Yeah, I'm not charging that time against you.
Okay. Well, thank you, Director Fisher, and I agree that from all accounts, the people have been excellent to work with. I know Mr. Williams is an excellent lawyer, and he represents his clients to the best of his ability, does a great job. I just think that I'm more comfortable at this point just keeping it the way that the Planning and Zoning Commission has indicated, with somewhat of a compromise, so that we maintain commercial on the south side, where you would have the foot traffic and then the ground floor windows for retail or whatever type of commercial business there would be in there, and then allow them to convert the north side to residential. So that's the way I see as being a good solution here.
Okay. Councilor Roberts?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I ask Director Fisher a question real quick?
Sure thing.
Vicki, so if we deny this appeal, what happens there? Does it go back to what the Planning Commission had recommended?
Currently, the Planning Commission's recommendation stands.
Okay.
So they are allowed to do only commercial on the south half of the building and residential on the north half adjacent to the parking lot.
Okay, I was just a little confused by the way it was written, so thank you, I appreciate that.
Any other comments? Councilor Roberts, you jumping back in?
Sorry, I'd like to make a motion. I just had to get out before I could make a motion.
I like that. You know the rules.
So I'd like to make a motion to deny the appeal.
Okay, we got a motion by Roberts to deny the appeal with a second by Sechrist. Let's go to a roll call vote, please.
Lehman. Maher. Roberts. Stroman.
Aye.
Pettigrew. Sorry. Sechrist. Bieberdorf. Ham. Evans. Roseland.
Okay. Made you go through that. I could have just had a voice vote, but 9-0. The appeal is denied. All right, we will move on to public hearing items 30 through 37 and open the public hearing for items 30 through 37. I do not have any speaker request forms for the public hearing. So we will close the public hearing and move on to consent public hearing items 30 through 36. Would the council like to approve the remaining items or pull any items for separate consideration? Okay, motion by Roberts, second by Roseland to approve items 30 through 36. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. That takes us to the end of the consent public hearing calendar, and we will move on to non-consent public hearing item 37. And that is the second reading of ordinance number 6666, an ordinance amending section 17.06 of the Rapid City Municipal Code, a request by Bice Young and Associates LLC for Bao Miao Inc. for rezoning request from General Commercial District to Light Industrial District for property generally described as being located at 2512 Marlin Drive. Got a motion by Lehman with a second by Ham to approve the Bao Miao Inc. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. With that, we'll go to the bill list, and Finance Director Daniel Ainsley, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The bills tonight total $12,674,154.40.
Motion by Ham, second by Roseland. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Before we move on to adjournment, I have been asked for a moment of personal privilege by Councilor Pat Roseland. You want to jump in there?
Thank you. Just a few minutes. This is going to be my last full meeting. I just wanted to thank the voters of Ward 5 in year 2022 who voted me in. I really appreciate what the council has done over the last 3 years. I really want to thank the council members who helped me along, who's been here a year longer than I have, and it's been a very fulfilling and a privilege to work with these men up here and women. And thank you for the leadership of Mayor Solomon and his friendship. I'd like to thank our directors, the city directors, who were very, very helpful to me. We're willing to answer all questions, and took phone calls. They probably shouldn't have, but they did. And also just thank the employees of Rapid City. Hopefully you continue to do this great job you've been doing, and it's an appreciation to you guys for what you all done. A lot of your work is maybe underappreciated, but I think we up here in the council appreciate it, and I certainly do. So I just want to thank everybody who made my 3 years here a great and exciting place to be. And at this time, I call for adjournment.
Well, just a minute, Mr. Roseland. So next week, the next meeting, the outgoing council members, you'll also have another opportunity to share. So maybe.
Thank you.
No, that's good. You'll have an opportunity to share, and we'll have an opportunity to share about each of you. So we certainly thank you for your service. Councilor Stroman, I saw you were in the queue.
I'll handle it next week.
Duly done. All right. With that, we'll take a motion to adjourn. Motion by Ham with a second by Stroman. All in favor? Any opposed? Meeting's adjourned. Thanks, everyone.